All right, welcome into the stream. Derek here once again. We're doing Gaming with Derek. This time we're previewing the Browns Titans game this weekend coming up. I've got ESPN Radio's Jared Stillman out of Nashville joining me. We go way back, Louisville, years ago. But Jared, thanks for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm so glad to be on the stream. I mean,
All right,
it
welcome
is
into the
nothing more
stream.
exciting than getting to do gaming with Derek, Mr. Earn Your Body, from the throwbacks who was a Louisville legend back in the day. So I'm glad to be on, and thanks for.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, we're going to talk Browns Titans. For those of you in the chat, there's a bunch of you guys already there. You guys can obviously ask questions, you guys can comment. And the gaming portion, we're going to be playing Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So that should be pretty interesting too.
Oh,
Uh,
let's see. I'm a little nervous.
I've only played it like twice. It's gone either way, where like on the first question, I was eliminated and I've gone pretty deep, so I guess it just depends. But let's talk Sunday. Obviously, the first bit of news on our end here in Cleveland is they closed facilities again today. Obviously, COVID-19 running rampant around the NFL. This is like the fifth time they've closed the facility for the Browns within a month. Myles Garrett obviously had it 2 weeks ago and missed two games. We've had people miss games. How are you guys dealing with COVID-19 down in Nashville?
So I would say that the state of Tennessee is doing pretty terrible with it. But as far as the Titans are concerned, they had their outbreak earlier this year before the Pittsburgh game, and they had to move that game back and then switch the Steelers and the Ravens games around. And it was a big disaster, a big nightmare for the NFL when they had to do all of that. But the Titans, that was kind of their big COVID issue. And ever since then, they've been pretty much in the clear. Not a lot of star players have been added to the COVID list. They'll add a guy to the COVID list every here and there, but other than that big breakout they had in the middle of October, they haven't really had any issues since then. I mean, I just think I look at it like this, right? Like in baseball, when they played in July and August and September, we were at what, 35,000 cases a day, 40,000 cases a day across the country. So it didn't really seep into baseball or football during training camp. But now with the 180,000 to 190,000 cases a day, it's really starting to find its way both into college football and pro football. And this is just the hand we're dealt. I mean, it's almost like losing a linebacker to a shoulder injury for 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, he's out. And that's what it kind of feels like with COVID. I mean, not to say that anybody wants Myles Garrett to suffer from COVID or to have any long-term effects from COVID, but there's a lot of people around here. The Titans are on their third left tackle. There's a lot of people around here like, if Myles Garrett could just stay on that COVID list for one more week, could that work in its favor? So I guess that's the way that I'm looking at football this year. I don't know how everybody else is looking at it, but it does feel kind of like it's now an added injury element to the team.
Right. So going into this weekend, just what's the vibe around town there in Nashville? Obviously, you guys are 8-3. We're 8-3. We've played Cleveland. When I say we've played not the strongest of schedule. You guys' schedule have been a little bit stronger. What's the vibe going into the weekend and into this game? Obviously, being at home, you got to feel a little bit more comfortable about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this, like with the Titans, there are good teams that are good matchups for the Titans, like Buffalo or Pittsburgh. And then there are teams that are bad matchups that are good teams for the Titans. I don't think Kansas City is a good matchup for the Titans. And I don't think Cleveland is a good matchup for the Titans either. Now, the people here think that if they just give Derrick Henry the ball 35 times, they're going to win the game. And honestly, there's a chance that they might be right. I have long since been a believer in just turning around and handing the ball to Derrick Henry. And even though I think Cleveland's got a good defense, do they have a good enough defense to stop Derrick Henry? So that's always going to be the big thing. I think when you've got a guy like that, like if you're a Kansas City fan, you've got Patrick Mahomes on your team, you feel like you go into any game thinking, well, Patrick Mahomes can win us the game. Aaron Rodgers can win us the game. And I think the people here feel that about the combination of Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, which is those two guys can win them any game. Cleveland's a good team. I mean, if you pick first every single year for 5 years, eventually you're going to have some good players on your team. And that's what Cleveland is. Last year they played the opening game, and I thought the way the game played out last year was exactly what I thought was going to happen. Cleveland had all the hype, all the big names, all the emotion, and a very calm quiet Titans team was going to go in there and just take care of business. And then the fans were going to freak out and the coach wasn't going to be able to handle it. And that's what happened in week 1 last year. I mean, Freddie Kitchens simply is not a good coach. Kevin Stefanski's done a much better job, just at least just calming it down. I think the Cleveland Browns are a good team, especially when we talk about Derrick Henry winning games. Nick Chubb might be the only running back in the league who might be better than Derrick Henry. So I think that's a real good matchup to watch. I don't think Titans fans ever get overly confident anymore because they've had their hearts broken so many times. But I would say this game is one of those ones where it's a good team coming in here. I feel like it's a little bit of a playoff preview.
Yeah, it very much could be a playoff preview, and it's one of those things where it's like the fans are optimistic, but then they're pessimistic as well when they look at this matchup because again, Browns are 8-3. You mentioned they're a good team, and they are. They lead the NFL in rushing. The Titans second in the NFL in rushing. So when you guys talk about how you look at Derrick Henry, Browns fans look at Nick Chubb the exact same way, and then with the addition, obviously, with Kareem Hunt, now you're looking at one of the best backfields in the NFL. But before we continue to talk about that, let's get into the game. So, question
Okay.
number one. So, we're going to tag team this, by the way. We're not going head to head, but
Okay.
I'm going to let you pick the categories. If you can't see the one in the bottom left, that's first grade spelling. So, pick a category, and then we'll see what happens.
I'm going to go second grade science.
Second grade science. All right, here we go.
Here is our second grade question.
We got virtual Jeff Foxworthy and everything.
What is the process called when the sun heats water to change it to water vapor?
Evaporation.
Evaporation. I agree. Let's lock that in.
That's it. That's the right answer.
All right, look, we survived the first one. We survived the first one. All right, so
let's pick a subject.
But yeah, when we look at this game, it's all about run the football for the Browns. They want to get it in the hands of Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. Like the Titans are pretty decent at stopping the run, and I know Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are really good, but the Titans are pretty good at stopping the run. The Titans have a horrid pass defense. Awful. And so I look at this game and I'm like, Jarvis Landry and Austin Hooper are the two guys that if Baker on every 3rd and 11 wants to just run to the open spot in the zone and Baker can just drop it off for either Hooper or Jarvis Landry, every time it's going to be open. Every time. The Titans cannot stop a pass play on 3rd down. 3rd and 12, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 3. They cannot. I mean, I watched Frank Reich on 4th and 2 try to run the ball. And I'm like, Frank, throw the ball. Like the Titans have to have the worst pass defense in the NFL of any team that is still trying. They have to have the worst pass defense in the league. So I hear you about Chubb and Hunt, and those guys, you can throw the ball to Kareem Hunt out of the backfield and he's going to make a difference. But the game is going to come down to can the Titans get off the field on 3rd down? And it's going to be really decided by is Baker going to just take what the Titans defense gives, which is everything, and throw the ball to Austin Hooper and Jarvis Landry. If they do that, I think you're going to have a really, really close game at the end. If they don't, I think the Titans are probably going to win.
All right, so I'm curious because the way you're talking is the same way we talk here in Cleveland. It's almost like a mirror image. So let's see if the stats kind of back that up. The Titans have given up nearly 3,000 yards through the air. They've given up 268 yards per game. The Browns have given up 246 yards per game through the air, about 2,700. Because when we look at the Browns, the front four is solid. We have Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson up the middle. They're solid. Middle linebackers, two-year guys in Mack Wilson and Sione Takitaki. And then the back four, Denzel Ward, still don't know the status for him. Outside of that, they have nobody in the secondary. So the thing here is if you attack number 23, which everybody knows is Andrew Sendejo, he has played terribly for the Browns this year. And it seems like anytime there's a pass play, it's getting broken. It's a big play for the offense. So it seems like we could be seeing mirror images in terms of how the defenses will play out on Sunday. So you're telling me it could be a high scoring game.
So I think that both teams are going to want to control the clock and kind of keep it down. The difference is that the Titans don't have the pass rushers Cleveland has.
Mm-hmm.
The Titans really don't have any pass rushers. The defensive tackle, Jeffrey Simmons, a second-year guy out of Mississippi State, he's the best player on the defensive line, but he's more of a space eater, game wrecker than he is just a sacker, a pass rushing, kind of player. Jadeveon Clowney's not going to play. He stinks anyways. Stinks. One of the most overrated signings in Titans history. He's awful. So it's probably better off that he doesn't play. The Titans don't have the pass rushers the Browns have. The Titans probably have a little bit better secondary than the Browns do with Malcolm Butler and former All-Pro and Kevin Byard. But the secondary's been a cause for concern. The one thing about the Titans that's weird is that A.J. Brown, star wide receiver, he's going to have over 1,000 yards again. He had a 75-yard touchdown last week against Indianapolis. He's not like your average home run hitting receiver, right? Like you think of a home run hitting receiver as a guy who runs past the corner, runs past the safety, quarterback throws it as far as he can, guy runs under it and scores a touchdown.
He just runs through everybody. He
just catches the ball, throws the DB off, and then just keeps running. It's almost like Derrick Henry at wide receiver. And so I wonder, if you're Cleveland, you're going to try to load that box because you're not going to let Derrick Henry run all over you. Like, I don't think anybody would ever let the star player of the other team run all over me. But then if A.J. Brown's, gets covered by a DB who's smaller than him and he throws him off just like he did last week against Indianapolis, he's capable of taking it to the house at any time. And then Corey Davis has been a really disappointing player for the Titans for the first 3 years of his career. His 5th overall pick in 2017, went ahead of Deshaun Watson, went ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Never really played like the 5th overall pick, but he's really stepped up in his free agent year as a good number 2. And so the Titans have options in the passing game that can make a big difference, but I worry about those pass rushers. 3rd string tackle David Quisenberry versus Myles Garrett does not make me sleep easy.
Yeah. Real quick, Leslie Gates on Facebook says, the Browns have to establish the run first to set up the passing game. Defense has to sustain the big runs that Derrick Henry will run for. Garrett has to be a factor rushing the QB. And then that's one of the strengths of the Browns right now is Garrett's gotten to the quarterback pretty much every game that he's played in. And we've seen guys double team and triple team him as well, and that doesn't seem to stop him. All right, let's move on. Another question for you. We want to pick another category?
I like the dual cameras you have. It's kind of throwing me off a little bit. Let's do 3rd grade English.
All right, 3rd grade English. Let's see what we got here.
And the question is
3.
That one was a pretty easy one. I'm a little disappointed in that question. How many syllables in the word paragraph? 3. That is correct.
I feel pretty good.
Shadow on Twitch says if we're able to slow Henry, we should be able to pick up the W. I'd say that's part of it. Your thoughts?
Let me ask you this question, okay? When you play the Tennessee Titans, what does every coach know the Titans are going to do?
Run the football.
They're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry. Last year, the Titans got into the playoffs. They went to New England. And everybody said that Bill Belichick is not going to let Derrick Henry run all over his team in the playoffs. And I was one of the people that thought that. Belichick was great. There's no way Belichick's going to let this happen. Derrick Henry ran for 180 yards. The next week, they play the Ravens. And we all know what the Titans are going to do. And Earl Thomas came out and said, well, the Patriots aren't as physical as us. And then Derrick Henry ran for even more yards the next week. Even last year in the AFC title game where people say Kansas City slowed down Derrick Henry, they didn't really. He had 69 yards on the ground, but Kansas City scored so many points in the 2nd and 3rd quarter that it took Derrick Henry and his ability to run out of the game. That's the way you take Derrick Henry away. You don't take Derrick Henry away by loading the box. The second you do that, Tannehill's going to throw the ball, and you're going to pay for it. And all these teams, that's why when Mariota was the quarterback, you could load the box and take away Derrick Henry. You can't do that with Tannehill. He's too smart. John Gruden said last year after the Titans went to Oakland and just lit the Raiders on fire, John Gruden said, I don't know what you do. You load the box to stop that big beast, and then Tannehill checks out to it, throws a 70-yard touchdown pass. I think that's what really worries a lot of these coaches is that the second you take something away, Tannehill will just go to the other option. The one good thing I think for Cleveland in this is that Jonnu Smith, the starting tight end for the Titans, is a very good tight end. He's not a number one, but he's very good. He's very fast. He's very big. Since Taylor Lewan, their left tackle's gone out, he has had to kind of chip in and stay inside the formation more than going out into pass patterns. I certainly think they're going to give Quisenberry a lot of help with Myles Garrett on Sunday. And that may mean that the Titans have to keep their tight ends and their backs in, which would then mean, okay, can the Brown secondary just stop A.J. Brown and Corey Davis more so than having to worry about all five guys out in the pattern?
Gotcha. Shadow on Twitch says Henry will still get his, but you take away from him, we should win. Easier to do with a lead. And that's the thing when we talk about the Browns running attack. What makes them so hard? It's not just Nick Chubb. It's obviously Kareem Hunt. So the way the Browns do it is it's first quarter, we're giving you one running back. Second quarter, we're giving you another running back. Third quarter, we're giving you another one. And then fourth quarter, we're giving you both of them. And that's how they seem to wear defenses down. I also think, even though he doesn't speak a lot, Nick Chubb has a chip on his shoulder coming in, because players like to talk about having chips on their shoulder, because Derrick Henry beat him for the rushing record, 2 years ago, I think it was, that Derrick Henry beat him out by like unbelievable. So even though these two players don't go head to head per se on the field at the same time, I think that's something that's going to be in the back of his mind, and he's going to want to show that he's the better running back of the two. Obviously, it's a team game, but I think that's the way they're going to kind of go into it. I know you may have a thought, but let's get into another game. I have to pick classmate. It doesn't matter who we pick. What's your question? What's your question?
You pick, Eric. I picked the first two, and I'm feeling good, so you pick the next.
My pick? Ooh. Let's go, see, that's setting myself up. We're going to go first grade art.
Is this finger painting? Nope, that looks like a brush.
True or false, harmony is a word used in both music and art. Ooh.
I mean, I guess true.
I think it's false. I don't know if anybody in chat's going to chime in real quick, but I think we're a toss-up.
I vote true.
You're voting true? Since you're the guest, we're going to go there. I think it's false.
Is normally answered by
Let's lock it in. Yeah.
I don't know what took you so long, but you did manage to come up with the right answer.
There you go. You got it right.
Yes.
You got it right. I would have gotten that one wrong. We would have been done.
That little education paying off right there.
Would have been done right there. All right. So it seems like, at least offensively speaking, it's going to come down between Ryan Tannehill and Baker Mayfield. First question is, what's the weather?
I vote for that. I vote for, as a Titan fan, I vote that it comes down to Ryan Tannehill versus Baker Mayfield.
So the first question is, what's the weather supposed to be like Sunday in Tennessee? Do you know?
Yeah, it's supposed to be cold. I mean, it is now not your kind of cold and not your kind of snow, but it's, like 30s, 40s kind of stuff, which is very, very cold in these parts. So I don't think weather has ever been something that has slowed down Ryan Tannehill or that I would worry about with Baker Mayfield. I mean, I know they both are from Texas, but Baker's played in Cleveland for 3 years now, and Ryan Tannehill's played everywhere. So, I mean, last year in the playoffs, they went to Foxborough, they went to Baltimore, and then they went to Kansas City, and Tannehill was fine. So I don't worry about the weather in this kind of game. I do worry about the Cleveland Browns defense that has, they love to rush the passer. They love to come off the edge. Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter of a cold game, have they faced a team like Derrick Henry or a back like Derrick Henry that just wears you down and is so physical like Henry is? So I would worry about that if I was Cleveland's defense as far as the weather's concerned. Because there's no doubt that if you go over the last 3 seasons, Derrick Henry continues to get better as the season goes on. And I think it's because defenses get more worn down over the course of the year.
Right. I'm trying to think. The Browns did give up a lot rushing, I believe, Baltimore the first time they faced them. I'm trying to check that real quick. Yeah, Baltimore they ran for 111 yards on them. But yeah, off the top of my head, have they faced a legit running back like Derrick Henry? No. I mean, last week they had Robinson with Jacksonville. James Conner with the Steelers. But that's about it. I guess they had, I guess Zeke would have played, but he only ran for 54 yards when they played the Cowboys. So they've actually done a good job in terms of rushing defense at keeping these running backs at bay. Cold
If
weather.
you're a
Go ahead.
bunch of Ohio State fans, and I'm sure they are, they're probably not going to want to hear this. Zeke stinks now. I mean, I watched the Thanksgiving Day game because, around here, the idea of, do you pay Derrick Henry? Do you not give Derrick Henry a contract was a big debate throughout the course of the pandemic of what do you do about Derrick Henry? And I watched the Thanksgiving Day game, and I watched Zeke, and I thought to myself, that is a guy who, once he got his money, player. Derrick got his money and might be a better player. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm sure the audience doesn't love that if they love Ohio State and love Zeke, but I am not a Zeke fan anymore.
Yeah. Speaking of Ohio State fans, when they played Baltimore, Dobbins scored versus the Browns. So I'm sure Ohio State fans didn't really appreciate that one, especially if they're Browns fans. All right, we're gonna go back to the game again. Next question. What do you got?
Okay, let's do third grade geography. This might be the one that gets me beat.
Okay. Third grade geography.
Let's take a look at the question.
What is the term for a piece of land that is surrounded by water on three sides?
Okay, let's see.
I got this one, just so you're aware.
Is it a peninsula?
It is a peninsula, and it's lock it in.
You look like you're
How did you
sweating
feel
a
so
little
good
bit.
about it? I thought it was going to ask me,
Secret
like,
school nurse.
what continent
Well, that
is
took a
Jordan
while,
located?
but you got it right.
Say that again.
I thought it was going to be something like, what continent is Jordan on? Like,
It's time to
All
decide
right,
which one of these young
let's start
scholars
to
you
wrap
want
this
to be
up.
your
Although we
classmate.
are winning in this game, so it's like, do we want to keep it
Pick
going?
another subject.
Maybe we'll do that at the end until we lose. Your thoughts Sunday? Just what's your feeling of this game, and how do you think it's going to end?
I think this is a 50-50 kind of game. This is one of those ones where, the blocked punt, the missed field goal, the big punt return, the fumble that was picked up and run back into the end zone, the one where Baker doesn't read it. Like, I think that one of those kind of plays is going to decide Sunday's game. When they played last year at the beginning of the season, and I don't, the teams are so different between now and then. Mariota was the quarterback. Freddie Kitchens was the coach. But I knew the Titans were going to win that game. I just knew that they had to just stay poised, stay calm, and then let Baker, because you knew Baker was going to be ramped up, let Baker make some mistakes.
Mm.
I think Baker is calmer. I think Stefanski has kind of put less on his plate. I don't understand why every time Baker has a good game, everybody wants to say he's the next great quarterback, or why every time Baker has a bad game, everybody wants to say it's time to bench Baker. I think that's too – I just think that's too ridiculous. It's unfair. And but I knew that Baker was going to be so ramped up to start the season last year that if you just hung in there, he was going to do something stupid. He did it 3 times, and the Titans ended up winning that game. This game, can you force Baker into a mistake? I think is a big question that can alter the game. So I think it's going to be really close. I'll make my official pick on the game Friday on our show, and I always kind of go back and forth for that. But right now, I'm probably leaning Cleveland if I had to pick as to who was going to win on Sunday.
Shadow on Twitch says that's Cleveland for you when talking about Baker, but I'm going to tell you why I think you get two completely opposite sides of the spectrum with Baker. It's because when you look back at the history of quarterbacks with this franchise, going back to Tim Couch in '99, they've gone through like 30 quarterbacks since then and multiple number 1 picks. So there's all this expectation put on the quarterback that they have to perform, and when he's not, it's like get him off the field. But it's also because in his third year, he makes some silly throws. And like last week, he missed 3 touchdown passes, 2 on one drive, 1 on another. Overthrew a wide open target, overthrew Landry in the corner, but throws that he should be making, especially considering how accurate he was in college. So I think that's where you land when you talk about quarterbacks here in Cleveland. The expectations are way too high.
I would just say that, okay, just because Kelly Holcomb and Tim Couch and Doug Peterson and Spurgeon Wynn and all of these guys failed as quarterbacks of the Browns, doesn't mean that that should affect how you feel about Baker Mayfield. I mean, you make a huge investment in Mayfield, and he's at least shown us that he can play. I mean, we at least know the guy can play.
Mm-hmm.
With quarterbacks, it's always going to be up and down, up and down. I mean, for example, Mariota's second year in the league, he was fantastic. Mariota can't play. Carson Wentz, his second year in the league before he tore his knee up, he was going to be league MVP. And right now, he can't play. These things take time, with young quarterbacks. And even Tannehill, I think, is an example of where they wanted Tannehill to be the next Dan Marino in Miami.
Mm.
That we want Dan Marino. Well, he's not Dan Marino. But Tannehill comes here. Nobody has any real expectations for him. Mariota loses the job. Tannehill gets put in because why not? And all of a sudden you're in the AFC title game, and now everybody here loves Tannehill, and everybody around the country would take a quarterback like Tannehill. Quarterback is a tough position, and I would just say Baker has proven that he at least can play a little bit, and I would argue just give him as much of an opportunity as you can. Don't give up on the kid, and don't force him to do things he's not ready to do.
Mm-hmm. You know how it is, and we both covered college sports too, but the sports world is not patient. You hire a coach, you got to give him 3 to 4 years, but teams don't do that. You bring players in, and you look at Baker, who's been in 4 different systems in 3 years. You gotta be patient and let him get comfortable in a particular system or a particular coach or particular offensive coordinator. And he hasn't gotten the chance to do that. And I think sometimes we forget that. But we're in a society where you got to have instant gratification. Patience is hard, but for a program, an organization like the Browns, who have been so bad for so long, you have to remember that they're 8-3. And in the driver's seat for making the postseason. Like,
Yep.
I think a lot of times people forget that, but they've also been let down so much. Last year, getting OBJ and getting Olivier Vernon and signing Kareem Hunt and all this stuff, the expectations immediately was we're going to the Super Bowl, and they couldn't even get to 500. So I think at this point, we've also seen teams that started out 7-4, I think, and ended up 7-9. So there's this whole perception of like, when are we gonna blow this thing? And right now, on the back end of the schedule, it is easy, but there's still some losable games. This week being one of them with Tennessee, Baltimore still being on the schedule, Pittsburgh still being on the schedule. All of a sudden, you're like, we just lost 3 games, and now are we potentially out of the playoffs? Now we have to beat the Giants, we have to beat the Jets, so that's where the issue is here in Cleveland.
I would not mind being in the position of having to beat the Giants and the Jets.
This is true.
I think I feel pretty good about having to beat the Giants and having to beat the Jets. I would argue on the Cleveland front, patience is key. I mean, you got to be patient. And, maybe Baker's not the guy, but let's give him a competent coaching staff and give him the opportunity to do that. I thought last year, I don't understand the trade for Odell Beckham, I never would have made. And I understand why they made it, but I never would have made it because there's certain expectations that come with Odell, both from your fans of what you're going to do with Odell and from Odell about what you're going to do with Odell. I get this running attack. Just hand the ball. Just give the ball off. Just don't, like with young quarterbacks, you don't need to make a young quarterback throw the ball 50 times a game. You don't need it. When Mariota was here, they had DeMarco Murray and they ran it every play. Mariota was pretty good. When DeMarco Murray got hurt, Mariota wasn't very good anymore. Tannehill is much better than he ever was in Miami. Why? Because the key to the Titans is give the ball to Derrick Henry. So I would just argue that I think Kevin Stefanski has done a much better job of realizing, hey, we got a pretty good defense, and we got 2 pretty good running backs, and we got a great possession receiver, and we have got a really good tight end. So let's just play small ball. Let's run the ball. Let's throw it short. Let's pick up first downs. Let's run our pass rushers off the edge. And I think that so far that's worked out for the Browns. And I believe that the Browns are better than the Ravens. So that when they play in a couple of weeks, I wouldn't fret that. But if you all of a sudden get into, well, Baker was the first overall pick, and it's time for us to figure out if Baker can be the man, then all of a sudden, if you do that, you're going to have Baker throw it 47 times, and you're not going to win. And I just hope that more, because it's really owners that want to see their quarterback like, hey, I invested all this money in him. I want to see him throw. I hope that owners and general managers realize that it takes time with young quarterbacks. And if you've got Kareem Hunt, you've got Nick Chubb, give him the time.
Yeah, and Michael on Facebook says we have a coach now. That's the difference, and that's part of this too. Kevin Stefanski, like you mentioned, he realizes the weapons that he has outside of Baker Mayfield, so he plays to those strengths of they've typically run the ball more than they've passed the ball, with the exceptions of the games that Nick Chubb had to miss.
So we covered I wouldn't say we covered. We talked about the Browns a lot last summer because they were the hot team, the team of the offseason, and the Titans were their first opponent. So we followed the Browns all offseason, and we'd be like, today Stephen A. Smith says this about the Browns, and then we talk about it because it's summer sports talk radio. But I knew all I needed to know when they scrimmaged the Colts last year. And there was all this chippy and fighting and back and forth. And Freddie Kitchens got to the podium and was like, we're not going back down from anybody. And I was like, okay, all right, I've seen enough. Like Mike Vrabel against this guy? Okay, yeah, no, I've seen enough. I don't know that much about Kevin Stefanski, but I know he's a football guy. And I think that's where you see the biggest increase is in him just being normal as opposed to what Freddie Kitchens was trying to be last year.
Right. And, it's one of those where Kevin Stefanski is one of those boring type coaches, especially in the press conference. But this is the guy that you want to handle this team coming out of this transition of being as bad as they were. You didn't want somebody like Freddie Kitchens, who was a rah-rah type guy in terms of talking to the media and like all these catchphrases and things like that. Jarrett, we lost your camera real quick. If you can bring it back. There we go. We got you. But Kevin Stefanski is the right guy for the job. The coaching staff seems to be the right guy for the job. Shadow on Twitch says they have the best coach they've had in years. He's utilized our players the best.
I mean, no offense, but Hugh Jackson.
I knew you were going to go there.
Okay, great. I mean, yeah. I mean, in all fairness, though, the Titans have the best coach they've had in years too, so I can't complain.
All right, let's wrap this up, but we are going to go back to one more question.
Which one do you think is the hardest?
What do I think is the hardest?
Yes. 5th grade world history or 5th grade physical education?
See, I think physical education is a setup for me. I might not know this one. So you want to go here? 5th grade physical education?
Your body, 5th grade physical education.
This is going to make me look bad.
This is a 5th grade question.
What is the term used in basketball to allow turning on a given point with 1 foot stationary? Oh, man. Pivoting.
I knew that too.
All right, pull up the other 5th grade question. We'll see if we can get that one.
All right. Well, you want to just keep going?
Might be a little difficult.
No matter what happens from this point on, the worst you can do is win.
I thought this was going to be hard. I thought this was going to make me look stupid.
We can finish it off if you want. 5th grade world history. Let's go.
All right, do that one.
I think we have 4 more after this.
Thinking cap for this one.
True or false? Imperialism means a parent country has states.
I'm going to say true, but I have no idea.
No,
federalism, isn't it?
I'm right there with you. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm going to say false. I think that's federalism.
Let's lock it in.
I bet you never thought you'd need to remember that later in
life. That looks like that's right. Look at that.
I mean, well, at least my parents can be proud about something.
All right, let's keep it moving. I think we have 3 more questions, 4 more questions. All right, we're going 1st grade spelling.
I really didn't want to go there, but yeah.
Not too much time.
1st grade spelling.
Here is our 1st grade question.
How many of the words for the numbers 1 through 10 have 5 letters?
Okay, so 5, 1, 7, 3,
no.
9 is 4, 10 is 3.
No,
8.
What are you naming off? 8 does, so that's 1.
Okay, 5.
Don't forget.
You say 5 has 5 letters?
Well, no. So 5's got 5.
No, 5 has 4.
You're right. Okay, 4. And the answer
$50,000
because 3,
3, 8,
3, 7.
3, 8, and
3,
7. 3, 8, and 7.
Yeah, that's right.
3.
Okay, 3.
And
I knew this one was gonna
going
trip me up.
B was tough.
You can do this.
You won't be getting any extra points.
All right, there we go.
speediness,
3. See,
but
you almost
got the
botched
right
it there.
answer.
Definitely tripped me up. I thought 5 had 5 letters. So
That was immediately you were like 5.
Let's pick a subject.
All right, what do you got?
music.
4th grade music.
Here is our 4th grade question.
What is the following note? Oh my.
I'm gonna say.
I used to know this. I played piano back in the day.
I'm gonna say C. I think it's a C.
All right.
Now, where I come from, they call
There you go.
that a right
I got it right?
answer.
You got it right.
I
We're on a roll here.
had no idea.
You're down to your last classmate. Pick
All
another
right, 2 more.
Uh, 2nd grade animal science.
All right.
All right, here's our question for $300,000.
True or false, catfish are cold-blooded animals? I honestly have no idea. I'm gonna go.
False.
That's my guess. I'm going false.
Nope.
And we're wrong. We
Time to
just
find out if the
Oh.
fifth grader
let's see
knows
if the 5th
answer.
grader knows. The 5th grader's gonna answer
There
now.
are some questions
She
even
says
fifth graders
true,
can't answer.
obviously. So we get to continue.
Honest.
Oh no, she said. Did she say false? I think she said false too. So I think we're out.
Well, it looks like you're on your
Yep,
own
we're
here.
out.
Oh.
You've got
Well, I'll wait for my $25,000 check. And
Goodbye,
be a great,
everybody. We'll
be a
see
great
you
game
again
this
next
weekend,
time.
Derek. I definitely think this is the best Browns team that's come in here in a long, long time. So we're all really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be. It should be a pretty interesting game. I think it's going to come down. It's probably going to come down to the passing game at the end of the game, but it'll be interesting to see what Derrick Henry, what Kareem Hunt, what Nick Chubb can do. It could be an extremely fast game if it plays out. But I am worried if Denzel Ward does not play, we don't have anybody that can contain AJ Brown, and that could potentially be the X factor for the Titans.
That would worry me too.
All right. Well, Jared, thanks for doing this. We're going to hop off. Stay on,
Yep.
but I'm going to end the stream. I appreciate you hopping on and doing this, man.
Thanks for having me.